authorities in the world. It is the United States of America. They don't care. They don't care for human beings. 57 years ago, when Japan was retreating on all fronts, they decided to drop the atom bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Killed a lot of innocent people who are still suffering from the effects of those bombs. Those bombs were not aimed against the Japanese. They were aimed against the Soviet Union to say, look, this is the power that we have. If you dare oppose what we do, this is what is going to happen to you. Because they are so arrogant, they decided to kill innocent people in Japan who are still suffering from that. Who are they now to pretend that they are the policemen of the world? What I'm condemning is that one power with a president who has no foresight, who cannot think properly, is now wanting to plunge the world into a holocaust. And I'm happy that the people of the world, especially those of the United States of America, are standing up and opposing their own president. I hope that that opposition will one day make him understand that he has made the greatest mistake of his life in trying to bring about carnage and to police the world without any authority from the international body. It is something we have to condemn without reservation.
What's poppin', my friends, my family? It's great to be back. Welcome to RBN Saturday Live. It's your host, Nick, Social MMA. Great to join you guys. This is Nick at Noon, right? I think Nick at Noon is a pretty decent title. Good to have you guys here with us. That's Nelson Mandela, a guy that Western chauvinists, especially liberals, Democrat, liberal, Western chauvinists, pretend was on their side. You have cringe liberals that still believe that people like MLK, Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela was on their side. They condemned the United States. This is what capitalists, apologists, social democrats don't understand. There's a lot of people who are part of the Bernie wing in politics who see my anti-United States position. And they wonder why I have it, because our Black revolutionary leaders have it. The white left is completely disconnected from the revolutionary struggles of Black Marxists, Black socialists, Black communists. In fact, many of them condemn Marxism, which was embraced by the Black Panthers, right? It was MLK that called out militarism. It is Nelson Mandela that called out the U.S. empire. But social democrat politics always stops short of criticizing the U.S. empire. There's still this belief that the West offers the best solutions. You have people like Matt Duss that still believes that. You got people like Matt Duss who believes that Joe Biden is going to Ukraine because he legitimately cared about the Ukrainian people. That is the message that Bernie Sanders want to send. You guys saw the video I released on Nina Turner, where Nina Turner was like, wouldn't you want someone to have our back like the way we have solidarity with the Ukrainian people? That's how they framed the issue. Meanwhile, anyone who has any history or foresight like the way our brother Nelson Mandela did, how can the United States condemn anyone with their track record and their blood record? I'm going to show you guys some MSNBC propaganda later. And there was this other liberal who was pretending like Putin's like the worst thing ever. It's like Putin's kill count is nowhere near the kill count of the United States president. And that's why I don't personally stand Putin. I don't really care about Putin as a politician. We have a common enemy. the enemy of the West, the enemy of the NATO infrastructure. Because Jim Crow Joe and our government, funded by our taxpayer money, is funded multiple genocides and is responsible for massive death and destruction of our globe. So when I see them get involved in Ukraine, I know their goal is to further that, to further more death and destruction in the name of U.S. hegemonic dominance. That's not how the NATO left see it. So we're going to lead with this debate that I saw a few days ago. I didn't get a chance to get to it earlier this week. That's why I'm popping in a little bit early. Got a lot of stuff running on today. So want to jump on early. We already got 100 people here. Much shout out to everyone here. Leave a like, share, help us get a few hundred viewers. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be a great conversation. So let's get to it. I'm actually gonna play because there's a lot to discuss here. I'm gonna let Live play. Let's pull it up. Let's pull it up here. Here it is. So this is the debate hosted on Democracy Now! And Democracy Now! Was called out by the Gray Zone recently because they smeared Julian Assange. They smeared him and they repeated the DNC line that Julian Assange was helping Trump. They russiagated Julian Assange, ambushed him. They invited, I believe, his wife. They invited Julian Assange and his people on, and then they told him, like, yo, we're going to talk about war crimes. We're going to talk about your reporting. And then they ambushed him out of nowhere and then start talking about Russiagate. And it was like, what the fuck? And to this day, they have not apologized for it. And that's why whenever I bring up Democracy Now!, even if it's something good like this, I'm going to bring that up because there's need to be a reckoning from these people who Russiagated Julian Assange. And I see them all the time because I subscribe to Democracy Now! And I watch a lot of their videos. They repeat a lot of Western talking points. And Amy Goodman, she's a neutral reporter, but she weaponized neutrality, where she would state the Western Democratic Party line, and then she's like, I'm neutral, so I'm going to state something as a fact. Even though some things that she state as a fact as a neutral news person, I'm like, I can dispute that. And she caught multiple times just reading Ukrainian government official like lines on stories. There'll be a story, and then Amy Goodman, they would do a story like, according to Ukrainian officials, Russian soldiers are responsible for mass tragedy, death, war crime, and suffering in the area. Then she would just leave the story there. And that's not good because she leaves out the war crimes of the Ukrainian soldiers. There's no investigation to the fact that the Ukrainian government and the people have been caught lying all the time. There's no critical analysis of that. So Democracy Now!, while better than MSNBC and TYT and all those obviously, they definitely engage in propaganda. And it's very uncomfortable to watch. Like, because I don't know if a lot of people see it. Like, we do propaganda report, they do a lot of subtle shit that make me shake my head. But these debates, with that said, these debates are a good thing. When they have Raymond Govern versus Matt Duss on, that's a great thing. They had Noam Chomsky and Chris Hedges on to push back on the Ukraine war. So I would say it is deeply confusing. There's like they have a lot of guests on, but they still repeat a lot of nonsense. There's nothing more I can say than that. Let's continue this video. This is Matt Duss versus Medea Benjamin, who, once again, big shout out, much love to Medea Benjamin for going to the Rage Against the War Machine rally, despite the deeply unserious people in her organization that was advocating against it because they didn't feel safe. I don't feel safe around my fellow workers. That will happen when you don't have a Marxist analysis. This is a good anti-war organization. But the fear of the other and the neighbor is something I will always push back on, and that RBN will always push back on. I view you guys as children and cowards. And if you're a coward, that's okay. But don't discourage other people who are brave enough to talk to their neighbors. How about, can we have that as a rule? If you don't feel safe doing something, you stay your ass home. Don't tell other people not to go, because Sabby tells this all the time. She went to the rally, and there were a lot of people, a lot of these ops, that was like, please don't go. Please don't go. I don't feel safe at this rally, so you shouldn't go. As I said before, I live in Missouri, where there's KKK literally 10 minutes away. There was attack in Belton 2 years ago. That's like 5 minutes away where I live. There are hardcore white supremacists where I live. But I am not as afraid as a black man, as my neighbor, as these fucking latte liberals who live in New York where 80% of the people vote for Joe Biden. Stop allowing these boutique motherfuckers to make you afraid of your neighbors. I think I'm gonna get to this video because she actually asked Medea Benjamin about this, about the rally, right? And I want to make something clear. I want to make something 100% clear. There was a very small percentage, maybe 1 to 2% of the people who criticized the rally that had good intentions. And I am not exaggerating. The vast majority of the people who are criticizing this rally are people who support the war, are NATO leftists. I've seen the TYT left, the Sam Cedar left. I see these Ukraine flag waving progressives. They was the number one people spearing the charge. Yeah, you had Black Agenda report where they critiqued that it wasn't black enough. But that's a very small minority of what I saw. Most of it are NATO leftists like Matt Duss and his supporters, Bernie Sanders supporters, AOC supporters who need to justify why their politicians support this war. So they are working backward from the conclusion. Oh my God, Nick Brana is there. Oh my God, libertarians there. Oh my God, this is why we shouldn't support this rally. They only attacked it because they are in the wrong on this issue. Are we clear? That's what it was. Because the thing is, if you listen to Black Agenda report, Ajamu, they were still saying, even with these criticisms, we don't care if you go to the rally. That's why I don't include them, because there was people that had 1,000 issues with this rally that was trying all their best 24/7 to get people not to go to the rally. And you guys want me to believe these people are not ops? Why do they deserve that benefit of the doubt? That's my question. What did they ever do to deserve the benefit of the doubt when they were trying to get people not to engage in actions? None, as far as I'm concerned. So let's watch this video. I'm gonna get into this because Medea was asked about this in the video. There's a lot of watch. I'm gonna do a lot of letting it play today, and I'll comment afterwards. It's gonna be tough though. We see.
This week, President Biden made a surprise visit to Ukraine today. During a meeting with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kyiv, Biden announced a new wave of sanctions against Russia and another $500 million in assistance, including more military equipment.
I thought it was critical that there would not be any doubt, none whatsoever, about U.S. support
Hello, my friends. My friends. Hello, my friends. We are back. That is why it is risky to stream alone when you live in the Midwest. CJ, where you at? CJ, where you at? I'm just playing. It's like in the morning. It's early over there. What's popping? What's popping, people? That's why it's hella risky stream on my own while I'm over here. Let me see if I can pull the video back up. Man, that was scary. Fuck. If that happens again, I'll just end the stream and I'll just unlist the video. Oh man, that reminded me of my old Twitch days back when I couldn't figure this shit out. Now I'm like, man, I need to start a network because I fucking hate technology. I fucking hate technology. So I was like, man, I need someone like Savvy and CJ tell me how to fucking do this shit. Anyway, let's see if we can get the video back up. My internet goes on and off every once in a while like that. I really hope it doesn't happen again. If it does happen again, I'll just unlist the stream and only you 180 people seen it. So it's all good. Let's go ahead.
Stop. Every day that weapons are supplied, people die on both sides, and these people count. It is important to go into peace negotiations.
Before President Biden left for Ukraine, he was met with protests during his dinner this weekend in Washington, D.C. by an activist with the anti-war group Code Pink.
President Biden, I hate to bother you. We need to end this war in Ukraine. We need to push for negotiations. I hate to bother you, but people are dying.
Sunday in Washington, D.C., there was all.
Remember I said Wednesday or Thursday? We need way more people to be Karens to politicians. Why are they eating in peace? Like the fact that Joe Biden can just sit there and eat in peace is astounding to me. Astounding to me. Shouldn't happen. Nancy Pelosi should not be able to walk down the street. None of these motherfuckers should be able to be safe. Be Karens to these motherfuckers, man.
Also a rage against the war machine protest at the Lincoln Memorial, where former Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein and others spoke. For more on Biden's surprise trip to Ukraine today, we're joined in Washington, D.C. by two guests. Medea Benjamin is co-founder of Code Pink, co-author of the new book, War in Ukraine, Making Sense of a Senseless Conflict. Also with us, Matt Duss, visiting scholar at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, former foreign policy advisor to Senator Bernie Sanders, and co-author of a piece in the New Republic headlined A Better Biden Doctrine. We welcome you both back to Democracy Now! Matt Duss, let's begin with you. Your response to this surprise visit before the announced visit to Poland that President Biden made today, meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky in the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv.
Now listen to this guy who was Bernie Sanders' foreign policy advisor. This is why I'm covering him way more, because I really wish I peeped this motherfucker before. So listen to this guy who's literally a Biden propagandist. I've seen quite a few of his media appearances now. Straight up State Department goon. So what was it, Bernie? Do you choose him because you liked his politics? Or was he forced on you? It's not good for Bernie either way. But man, this is damning when you see this guy. Listen to this.
Sure, and thanks for inviting me on. I think the visit by President Biden to Kyiv is, clearly intended just to show continuing support and solidarity with the people of Ukraine as we approach the.
But not support and solidarity for people for East Palestine. So if the message is Biden showing up is a sign and show of support and solidarity, he does not show up for East Palestine. Doesn't show up for the millions of Americans that are homeless, that are struggling, that is demanding his attention. He shows up for Ukrainians, though. But the NATO left has no criticism of that.
1-year anniversary of the Russian invasion or the Russian further invasion on February 24th. And I think, for an American president to make a trip like this is enormously symbolic. If on all days on President's Day, to.
This guy Matt Duss is repeating everything we showed you for Morning Joe. Every single fucking thing. What is the difference from the analysis that come from the NATO left and MSNBC? Zero, apparently.
To be make an appearance with Ukraine's president. So I think, coming after, days after we've seen a number of senior administration officials making speeches and holding consultations at the Munich Security Conference, working with allies and partners, to show continuing support. I think the president's visit really underlines that in an important way.
And the announcement of more, something like
in an important way. In an important way. Might as well be a Biden state spokesperson. Is this Bernie Sanders' foreign policy advisor? Or is this Biden's PR agent? Which they all seem like they are now.
$500 million of weapons to Ukraine, mainly?
I think, the release of further funds that have been already allocated is important. I think it sending the advanced form of long-range weapons that Ukrainians have continued to request, and I think it does show the way the president has approached this problem with a really important measure of restraint.
What?
The last point I would make is last week we saw.
I gotta make sure I heard that right. Play that.
It does show the way the president has approached this problem with a really important measure of restraint. The last point I would make is
Matt Duss is spreading the lie, and this is what Nina Turner did as well. That Joe Biden is doing a great job handling this crisis. That he's showing restraint. The guy who's blocking multiple peace deals. The EU and the Biden administration just blocked the peace deal that Beijing was offering. Every time they would draw a red line, and then they would cross their own red line a few months later. When Biden said, "Oh, we don't want to send tanks because that'd be too exploratory. We don't want to send longer range missiles because that'd be too exploratory." And then they did the thing that they criticized months before as being too exploratory. And then the media would be like, "Oh my God, Biden finally flipped the decision. He finally decided to send in the tanks." It's like, where did he show restraint? The only people that have shown restraint has been Iran, China, and Russia. China has shown insane restraint, considering the United States has violated their sovereignty with Taiwan over and over again. Iran has shown incredible restraint despite the sanctions the United States put on them, despite the fact the United States pulled out of the Iran deal. And the fact they continue, like Joe Biden is doubling down on Trump's hardline Iran position. They still show a lot of restraint as well. You got these red lines that are constantly crossed. But then Russia, China, and the United States allies are forced to show restraint. While the United States can engage in all-out, full-fledged geopolitical, economic, and hot war against countries. And that's considered their sovereign right. It's a very disgusting ideology.
Last week we saw a report in the Washington Post about various administration officials in conversations with their Ukrainian counterparts, making clear that there should be an opportunity sometime in the next few months, hopefully, for the possibility to find an opportunity to get to negotiations. They are very mindful that the United States and its partners cannot continue to supply Ukraine at the current rate. So I think that article we saw last week signaled an effort to start to prepare the environment for eventual negotiations.
This is President Biden speaking in Kyiv before he left.
Together, we've committed nearly 700 tanks and thousands of armored vehicles, 1,000 artillery systems, more than 2 million rounds of artillery ammunition, more than 50 advanced launch rocket systems, anti-ship and air defense systems, all defend Ukraine, and that doesn't count the other $500 million we're announcing with you today and tomorrow. That's going to be coming your way. And that's just the United States in this piece. And just today, that announcement includes artillery ammunition for HIMARS and howitzers, more javelins, anti-armor systems, air surveillance radars to help protect Ukrainian people from aerial bombardments. Later this week, we will announce additional sanctions against elites and companies that are trying to evade sanctions and backfill Russia's war machine.
That's President Biden speaking in a surprise trip to Kyiv this morning before heading on to Warsaw, Poland. We're also joined by Medea Benjamin, co-founder of Code Pink. Medea, your response to President Biden's trip and to this statement that he just made.
Well, I feel this is a propaganda move to shore up support for a senseless war that the American public are starting to realize has no end in sight except for more senseless waste of lives. We saw a new AP poll that showed that only 40% of the American people want to send more weapons to Ukraine. We see protests happening here in the United States, like the one that happened yesterday, bringing together a broad sector of people. And we see the protests happening all over Europe, a new coalition called Europe for Peace that is pushing their governments towards negotiations. And we see just from the United States,
So, by the way, what the NATO left will not tell you, here, I'm going to show you guys this. Regarding the massive protests in Europe, they're not showing you. This is Benjamin Norton here, translating this for me. 50,000 protesters came to the huge rally in Berlin, Germany. They are demanding an end to Europe's escalation of the NATO proxy war in Ukraine and immediate peace talks. So I bet if there's people from World Socialist website or anyone else writing a story, they will find one out of these 50,000 Germans who have far right views and be like, oh my God, you guys can't support this rally. You guys can't support this rally. Look at this guy over here. Look what he believes. That's what they will be doing. Meanwhile, in Germany, they organized in 50,000 people. So that is what Medea Benjamin was referring to. So let me go back to the video and we can continue. I'll go back just a little bit.
People want to send more weapons to Ukraine. We see protests happening here in the United States, like the one that happened yesterday, bringing together a broad sector of people. And we see the protests happening all over Europe, a new coalition called Europe for Peace that is pushing their governments towards negotiations. And we see just from the United States the opposite from Biden, saying we're sending more weapons. And of course, Zelensky, every time the U.S. agrees to send a new weapon like the tanks, then has another request like the fighter jets. And what is it going to be after that? Troops. The American public, the public in Europe and the world community is saying we need to find an answer for this. That is why the top diplomat from China is on his way to Russia. They are about to announce a peace plan. The entire world is.
And Joe Biden in the EU just rejected that, showing that they don't care about peace. And this is a very critical fact that the NATO left, like Nina Turner, ignores. Which in her video where she's pretending, where she's calling out Joe Biden, she's pretending that Joe Biden is just standing in solidarity with the Ukrainian people instead of prolonging this war.
Calling for a peace plan. We saw this with President Lula from Brazil, who met with Biden. Biden was pushing Brazil to send weapons to Ukraine. He said, we don't want to join this war. We want to end this war.
Matt Duss, your response to Medea Benjamin's comment that this is a senseless war.
I agree it's a senseless war. It's a senseless war that was launched by Russian President Vladimir Putin.
This scumbag has said this line so many times. And this is the same line you hear on Morning Joe. The same line you hear on CNN. The same line you hear on TYT. It's almost like they're given a memo where they say erase the entire history of the conflict. We all know this is not true. Russia did not start this war. You had the NATO chief secretary admit this war started in 2014. Even the NATO chief secretary said, a lot of people don't know this, but this war didn't start when Russia invaded. It started in 2014. But this is the line they say because they are lying to people on purpose. So I'm asking you guys this question. Why does the NATO left have to lie to you guys about this conflict? Does someone who think they are in the right have to come on this show very low energy like Matt Duss is and lie? Like, look at the body language of this guy. Look at how the way he presents his information. You guys see the passion that comes from my voice. You guys see the passion of Medea Benjamin. Meanwhile, this guy sounds like he's reading a script every time I listen to the guy. No enthusiasm at all. This guy is clocking in. This guy is clocking in and doing a job every day. Not giving a fuck. But he's embraced and loved by the Burning Wing. He is embraced and loved by Annika Sperrin and TYT. Meanwhile, they blocked us. What does that say? I am begging you guys to ask, what does that say? Now, let's continue to the video.
We don't want to join this war. We want to end this war.
Matt Duss, your response to Medea Benjamin's comment that this is a senseless war.
I agree it's a senseless war. It's a senseless war that was launched by Russian President Vladimir Putin. I would agree that we all want to end this war. I think the people who want to end this war most of all are the Ukrainians. I think the question is under what conditions can we end this war in a way that's durable and that provides for continuing security and not is simply a pause before we get to another round of even worse fighting. I think this has been the approach of the Biden administration thus far.
This guy is nothing but a PR agent for Joe Biden. That is not true. That is not true. So Biden in the U.S. and the Zelensky position is whenever there's a Ukrainian offensive, whenever they gain momentum, they say, oh, we can't negotiate now. We got Russia on the back foot. Why would we negotiate when we're winning? When Russia is winning, when they're taking land, they say, oh, we can't negotiate now because that would be a sign of weakness and we get Putin everything he wants. Now he's taking the land. They have it both ways. There is no situation, there is no position the United States and Ukraine would accept for peace talks. And they have made that 100% clear.
To get to a point where you have real negotiations that can produce a ceasefire, if not a peace agreement, an actual ceasefire that is enforceable and durable. And I certainly grant that there are very legitimate concerns and questions on the part of lots of people, including within the administration, about how long this can go on and continuing to seek opportunities for precisely the negotiations that I previously mentioned.
Matt, Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, has said he's ruling out trading territory for peace as part of any negotiated settlement with Putin. He made the comments in an interview with the BBC. Your response?
I think from Zelensky's perspective, it makes sense for him to say that. And I will also recognize that as a matter of international law. All of Ukraine, including Crimea, this is part of Ukraine. Now, if we get to a point where there's a ceasefire that is possible and durable in the absence of those kind of maximalist goals, I think that is something that we should look at seriously. I'm not proposing to negotiate on the behalf of the Ukrainians. No one should do that.
Oh, yes, we should.
But I do think.
See, this is the line that comes from the NATO left all the time. They would say in one sentence that we have to provide Ukraine weapons, arms, munitions, and pretty much social welfare, because if we don't, they will immediately crumble to Russia and they will lose. And then they will also take that statement and turn around and say, we have no right to tell the Ukrainians how they should negotiate. They are only in this fight because of us. We are the one who helped provoke this war in 2014. We are the only reason they are in this fight, and they should be thanking us every goddamn day. So if anyone should have a say on how you guys should negotiate, it should be us who's funding the war. How is this not an obvious point for the NATO left? Apparently it's not. Clowns.
we do have an interest in seeking an end to this war, and I think the administration is clear about that, even if they very carefully do not want to get ahead, at least publicly, of declarations from the Ukrainian president.
Medea, Benjamin, if you could respond to what Matt says, and you talked about the anti-war protest yesterday in Washington, D.C. You were initially on the scheduled to speak, but then you didn't speak. I was looking at a series of tweets between you and Ralph Nader, and he said, "Why didn't you speak?" Can you explain what's happening within the anti-war movement? But first, respond to Matt.
I think the U.S. has a history of trying to stop negotiations, especially the ones that were taking place in March, a month after the war began, and the West decided that they didn't want Zelensky to make an agreement with Russia. I think that the constant sending of weapons is saying to Zelensky, you don't have to negotiate. We are behind you 100%. The U.S., what it should be doing is talking to the Russians. Biden, instead of making a symbolic appearance in Kyiv, should make a meeting with Putin, and they should talk about how to end this war. The issue of yesterday's march, rally, and then a march to the White House. It was fascinating, Amy. I've never been at an anti-war rally like that. My organization, Code Pink, didn't want me to speak there because they didn't like a number of the speakers and their
deeply
positions
unserious
on other issues. But when have we ever had an anti-war march that brought together Ron Paul, Tulsi Gabbard, Jill Stein, Dennis Kucinich, people from very different...
I told you guys before, the speakers is 100% irrelevant. The only thing that matters is spreading the issue of U.S. forever war, advocating for peace in Ukraine. The speakers are there just to attract attention so that attention can be on the message. There is no rally. There is none of these events that happen that immediately ends in a solution. Like, this rally doesn't happen and the war doesn't end. There's not a Medicare for all rally and then Medicare for all happens. The whole goal of a rally is to spread awareness. Okay? If you understand that point, when you understand that, you realize nothing else fucking matters. As long as everyone's on point on that message, right? Does not matter if Tulsi's there. Does not matter if Jackson Hinkle's there. Doesn't matter if anyone's there. In fact, more people being there is better because it shows that people that have different views and different beliefs are pushing this idea. Then you get people engaged on the issue. Get people engaged on the issue, and then you continue actions. You move on to the next step. You start continuing to put force and pressure on the government by hitting the streets, engaging in general strikes, make contact so we can continue the anti-war movement. All the stuff that these overly online leftists, the professional managerial class people talk about is irrelevant and it is meant to distract. Oh my God, there's a YouTuber there. There's a libertarian there giving a speech. Who gives a shit? I am in my neighborhood. I am talking to my friends, my family, my sister, my brothers, my neighbors, my friends. Don't give a shit about Jackson Hinkle. Don't give a shit about him. Surprise! I went to the store today, got some food. You know what's going on? No one's talking about Jackson Hinkle in a goddamn grocery store. Everyone's talking about how they're gonna pay their bills. The whole point of the rally is to get people to focus on the issue. No one who is not online like you guys are, no one who is deeply unserious like you guys are focusing on, oh my God, who are the speakers of this event? They just hear anti-war rally. Oh my God, what's going on here? Then they may listen to a speaker speak, and they may hear him talk about why they support ending the war. That's a good thing, and no one can convince me otherwise. It doesn't matter who's at the event, as long as it's a good issue, something that you're bringing people together to advance on. It's deeply unserious. It's only people on Twitter, only people who are obsessed with podcasters who made this a thing. The people who tweet about Jimmy Dore every goddamn day. People who tweet about Jackson Hinkle. Jackson Hinkle is a 23-year-old kid. He's a 23-year-old kid, and grown-ass men grown-ass women lose their goddamn mind over a young-ass kid. It is unbelievable to me. People who are actually in the struggle, it's unbelievable to us. Struggling to pay our bills. We had to take people in our house because they would be homeless. We just had a conversation. We trying to figure out who's going to take in a family friend because a family friend lost their house. And I told them, like, we can't really do it because we got one person home. So we got our cousin that took her in, right? Like, these are things that are going on in our life. But you motherfuckers are talking about podcasters. It's a joke to me. It's a joke to literally anyone who's serious about anything other than these overly online leftists who I'm done with. I have cut these motherfuckers off. The old relics from the Bernie campaign and these people who spend all the time tweeting about Jimmy Dore, tweeting about Jackson Hinkle. I don't have time for your stupid shit. I'm going to Seattle next week. I'm going to Seattle next Saturday to help workers strike back. I want to help Casey tenants in my city. I want to continue to advocate for socialism and ending the war machine in the prison industrial complex. You motherfuckers want to end Jackson Hinkle. I don't give a fuck about Jackson Hinkle. And the fact that you guys do is embarrassing. He's a 23-year-old kid, and you guys are melting down about him. You guys are preventing a legendary anti-war speaker from attending a rally because you guys are afraid of a 23-year-old kid. It's a joke what the professional managerial class is in this country. Meanwhile, we're fucking struggling to live. We're struggling to live here, but these motherfuckers are stressed over Jimmy Dore.
Political perspectives. And there is another march coming up on March 18th, which a different set of groups is putting together. I think we have to be at every anti-war march. And I'm also excited that on Tuesday, we're having a lobby day in Congress, inviting people of all political persuasions to come meet us in the Rayburn building and go to the offices of every member of the Armed Services Committee in Congress to say enough weapons, stop sending weapons, start negotiating, stop escalating, start negotiating. This is the message I think now that more and more American people want us to take to Congress, which has done nothing but supply billions and billions of weapons to keep this war going when there is no winning on the battlefield. And I think that's an important thing to say to you, Matt Duss, because there is no winning on the battlefield. If you agree to that, then why do we keep fueling this war?
Matt, your response.
Sure. I mean, first, I would just quickly, reference something Medea just said about the United States stopping negotiations. She referenced talks that were happening in March and in April, and I think I would encourage viewers to look closely into that because I think that's a very, very incomplete and frankly inaccurate rendition of what actually happened in that situation in those negotiations between the Ukrainians and the Russians. With regard to ending the war, as I said,
you notice how he doesn't clarify. I was like, are you going to clarify what she said? She just said Medea lied. That's what he just said. Medea just lied to you guys. But I'm going to move on. I'm not going to clarify that lie that she just told. What a sneaky weasel this guy is, considering we expose him all the time, the fact that he lies on this conflict. This guy said that Ukraine and Russia has no cultural connection before. They're just a random country. Zoya, friend of the show, honorary RBN member, she's from Odessa, Ukraine, formerly USSR. There is common travel between Eastern Ukraine and Russia. Families literally live cross-border from each other. She talks about this all the time. You had BBC that did documentaries about this, but Matt Duss went on TYT and said, oh, there's no historical and cultural connection between Russia and Ukraine. So he says that people like Medea Benjamin lies about this, but that is what he does. It is straight up projection.
Certainly want this war to end. I think acknowledging that there can be no victory on the battlefield, even if one does acknowledge that, there is still an argument for continuing to support the Ukrainians for creating the best possible situation on the battlefield that they can to come into negotiations from the strongest possible position. That has been, I think, the Biden administration's approach. That has been the approach of our European allies. That does not preclude eventual negotiations when those negotiations become possible. I would note also that the Biden administration has been talking to the Russians at various levels, even if we're not seeing phone calls between President Biden.
Bro, our next story to show how he is full of shit is how Joe Biden and the EU shut down another peace deal, the one that Beijing was offering. They're shutting down Israel. Literally, Natalie Bennett, that raging fascist, even he was like, you guys are out of your goddamn minds. He wanted to hold a peace summit, shut down by the United States and the UK. So Matt Duss, who pretty much called Medea Benjamin a liar, here lying himself once again. Man, this man cannot help but lie. The NATO left is filled with a bunch of people who can't do anything but lie about this conflict.
And President Putin, there's been numerous reports of contacts at various levels between United States officials and their counterparts to identify when negotiations are appropriate and can achieve something. But as yet, Vladimir Putin is the one who has given no indication that he is ready for that. And I think that's very important to recognize.
That's just not true, Matt. And going back to the negotiations that were happening in March, it was not only confirmed by Turkish officials involved in the negotiations and Ukrainians themselves, but now we have former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett from Israel saying that the West blocked these negotiations.
And in terms
of the negotiations, I think it's very exciting that now we have the Chinese who are on their way to talk to Putin in Russia and will be announcing a peace plan. And I think the Chinese are representing what the entire world wants to see. Stop the fighting now. You say, when will it be time for...
This is one thing I give Democracy Now! Props for, because thank God they have a debate. They bring Matt Duss on and they bring a counter narrative. Anna Kasparian in the Clowns at TYT brought Matt Duss on as the foreign policy expert and allowed him to lie to thousands of their subscribers. So if you're going to bring on a lying government bootlicker like Matt Duss on, you need to bring on a counter narrative, or you need to put back yourself. Do not bring this guy on to present information as a neutral arbiter. He is going to lie, and if Medea Benjamin was not here, Democracy Now! Would let him get away with it the same way that Anna Kasparian, one of the many access journalists on the left now, let Matt Duss get away with very similar lies. We did a video on that a few months ago. So let Medea, I'll go back just a little bit, and I'll let Medea Benjamin continue her point, knocking down Matt Duss's horrific lies.
Who are on their way to talk to Putin in Russia and will be announcing a peace plan. And I think the Chinese are representing what the entire world wants to see. Stop the fighting now. You say, when will it be time for negotiations? Well, the time for negotiations is way past due. And I think the pressure to send fighter jets, I mean, we're just getting deeper and deeper into a third world war, into a nuclear war.
NATO left don't care.
I think it's that American people should be horrified that this is the direction that our government is taking us. And it's the Ukrainian lives that are being lost and sacrificed every day while the U.S. is trying to weaken Russia. Enough is enough. Negotiations now.
I wanted to get Matt's response to China, both Vice President Harris and Secretary of State.
What she should have did, and this is not really necessarily criticism of her here, what Amy Goodman should have did, like, hey, yo, what Medea Benjamin said, she said you said something that was inaccurate. You said the United States was promoting peace, and then she just gave examples of the United States not promoting peace. Do you have a response to that? Amy Goodman literally bails Matt Duss out here. That's why I don't like these like overly like moderated debates. I like free flow conversation debates. Like, she bails him out here. Like, he should answer for that lie that Medea Benjamin just destroyed him on. But sure, oh no, never mind. Just move on. No, Tippy, you do that. No, I'm not interested in that. Look at this.
trying to weaken Russia. Enough is enough. Negotiations now.
I wanted to get Matt's response to China. Both Vice President Harris and Secretary of State Antony Blinken warned China at the Munich Security Conference this weekend against providing support to Moscow as reports emerged Beijing supplying Russian forces with non-lethal military assistance. Beijing responded to the U.S. threats earlier today.
It is the U.S., not China, that is providing a steady stream of weapons on the battlefield. The United States is in no position to make demands of China. We will never accept the U.S. pointing fingers at Sino-Russian relations or even coercing us.
That's Wang Wenbin, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson. Matt Duss.
I mean, well, you can't dismiss what he just said. I mean, certainly the United States has been supplying weapons. And more broadly, I think there are, part of what China is able to exploit in its own rhetoric is the fact that the United States has a very bad record on these issues going back many decades. It employs a whole series of double standards on issues of international law when it comes to dealing with friends versus dealing with adversaries. And I do think these are arguments that have, have an audience in the world, particularly in the global South. Now, certainly, I think China has its own problems, both with its foreign policy and certainly with its domestic affairs, its repression of the Uyghurs, just to name one of the various abuses.
This motherfucker repeat every single CIA operation talking point. The genocide of the Uyghur Muslims have been debunked multiple times to the point where the Associated Press said there's no evidence of it. There is more evidence of a genocide of Black Americans than there is of the Uyghur genocide in China, where their population is thriving, where their literacy rate has gone up, their life expectancy has gone up. In America, Black literacy rate has gone down. Black life expectancy has gone down. So my point I'm making is, if you say there's a genocide of Uyghur Muslims because they have a few criticisms of the Chinese system, there is more evidence to say there's a Black genocide in the United States. But if you were to say that, they'd be like, oh no, that's not true. It's bullshit, and it is CIA op. And then there are many journalists that went there and said we don't see anything that constitutes a genocide. Where's the bodies? How is there a genocide with no bodies? Have you guys seen the pictures? You guys see Yemeni children all the time. All the time. You see starving Yemeni children because the United States is funding a genocide in Yemen. All the time you see Israelis killing Palestinians. You see dead Palestinian kids. There's no journalistic video or pictures of these quote unquote Uyghur genocides that many people in the world has been asking. No evidence are being produced. And then whenever they're asked of this, they say, oh, well, this is just Chinese suppressing evidence. White people will believe anything about China. So there's a secret genocide going on in China. They're just suppressing all the evidence. And we got satellites everywhere. We got Western spies in your countries. We got journalists going to your area. But China is super good at suppressing dead bodies, apparently. That is what the West wants you to believe. But you see how Matt Duss says whatever the CIA wants him to do. The same with Vosh, who debated many people on this and lost every single debate when he trying to push the Uyghur genocide nonsense. The entirety of the NATO left pushed this nonsense with no evidence because, as I said before, white people believe anything said about Asian countries. Oh my God, in DPRK, their citizens believe that he don't take a shit. Yeah, man, them dumb Asians, man. Do you know that China doing a genocide against the people? Man, that's crazy. Them ruthless, violent Asian people. There's no question. There's no questioning of this rhetoric because of inherent white supremacy. I'll go back to that part where he says that again, and we only 3 minutes. I'll let it play a bit.
That have have an audience in the world, particularly in the global South. Now, certainly, I think China has its own problems, both with its foreign policy and certainly with its domestic affairs, its repression of the Uyghurs, just to name one of the various abuses it's been carrying out. But I think we should not dismiss these arguments. Now, as for China's role in brokering peace, personally, I'm very skeptical. that the Chinese government will be willing to play an actually productive role here. They do have influence with Vladimir Putin. Certainly, he's become much more reliant on support from the Chinese government over the course of this war. But going back to what Medea mentioned, Brazilian President Lula. I certainly don't dismiss the possibility that Lula could play a productive role in this as well. This is something I think the United States, frankly, should be willing to work with. If the president and his administration have, at least rhetorically, said that we need to make space for others to play a role, particularly leaders from the global South in global affairs. So I think we should be willing to see if Lula can produce something here and not dismiss that out of hand.
Well, we gave you the first word, Matt. So Medea Benjamin, the last word.
I think it's very exciting that the Chinese are coming up with a peace.
And this is not really a criticism, but take it as it is. This is why you can't host debates for 20 minutes. Like, what exactly is the point for hosting a 20-minute debate like this, where Matt does get to lie, weasel, squirm, Amy Goodman bails him out and changes the subject when Medea Benjamin pins him against the wall. Medea Benjamin pinned this boy against the wall. Could have took his lunch money. But then Amy Goodman changes the subject immediately. This debate, and now we're on last words, man. This is why this old media style is not appealing to me, at least, I should say. Like, you need to have, I want to see Medea Benjamin and Matt Duss. These motherfuckers need to have a 1-hour sit-down conversation where they go through all Matt Duss's lies. And if Matt Duss thinks that Medea Benjamin is lying over anything, they can go through that. You notice how he quickly when he accused her of lying, he gave no evidence. Medea Benjamin called him out and then provided evidence. That's why people like Matt Duss benefit from this format, where you can say your talking points, get the fuck out real quickly.
Plan, because we know that Putin would be on board for that, and then we have to get the U.S. and Zelensky on board for that as well. I think there is this very loud groundswell coming up from below and from the global South to say, enough, we have to find a way to end this. It's causing greater hunger around the entire world. It's causing greater increase in prices of energy. It's causing more dirty energy to be used. It's time to find a solution. And I think now it's the West against the rest of the world saying, end this war now.
Medea Benjamin, co-founder of Code Pink, her book, War in Ukraine, Making Sense of a Senseless Conflict.
I think we saw everything that we need to see here. So that's the debate between Medea Benjamin and Matt Duss. And you guys see Matt Duss' position there, which is the position that the NATO left is not shy to admit, that they support Biden and his agenda. They think Biden did a good job of bringing our allies together. Nina Turner and her black female co-host, they was praising Joe Biden for standing in solidarity with Ukraine. And this is why they have to oppose these rallies. That's why they got to smear the rally and prevent people like Medea Benjamin, who knows the truth. Medea Benjamin knows the truth on this issue, so she's willing to attend a rally with anyone. And then the little liberals in Code Pink who felt uncomfortable, in this quarantine Max Blumenthal was reporting, who felt uncomfortable at the event, prevented her from speaking. And you had a lot of the Matt Duss leftists, the TYT leftists, like Anna Kasparian, they love Matt Duss, right? So they smeared the rally because they agree with Matt Duss, because they support the NATO proxy war, right? And Code Pink being useful idiots, a lot of boutique left, they was using them as a reason why they smeared the rally. They said even Code Pink pulled out a rally. They gave them the exact soundbite they wanted. So much props to Medea Benjamin for not falling for the bullshit and leading by example. And the people, the young millennials who believe they know more than Medea Benjamin on this, shame on them. Shame on them. So I'll show you guys there's massive NATO protests in Germany. The next story I'm going to get to, this probably be the last story I'll do today, will be the China peace plan that the United States have knocked down. So I'll get to, I think I saw a few super chats here. I'll read these. I'm going to get to all the super chats today. since I'm alone, I can't really get to normal chat. So if you guys have any comment you guys want to leave or any base stat or anything like that, leave a super chat. I'll get to that as well. Thank you for the $10, Natalie. They lie about why we are at war because our wars are about land grabs, resource pillaging, and regime change. Democracy is the least of their concerns. War is a racket. And neoliberalism have learned, neoliberals and capitalism, they learned a new way to wage war. So the Ukraine war is about ending Germany's new alliance and friendly relations that they developed with Russia over the last 20 to 30 years. So the expansion of NATO and aggression towards Russia is about supplying the military industrial complex, with NATO is meant to spend 2% of their budget on military weapons, and to end Europe energy dependence on Russia. Matt Duss did not tell you that. Nina Turner does not tell you that. The NATO left does not tell you. They don't want you to know their agenda. They want you to think that Joe Biden is funding Ukrainian Nazis out of the kindness of his heart, which is not true. I think for $20 here, all these people saying no ceasefire before Russia pulls out of their troops or Ukraine, it will never happen, and leads into more dead Ukrainians. Reckless and insane stance. Absolutely. Finland negotiated peace during World War II with USSR. And that's why they said, well, we're not going to negotiate on behalf of the Ukrainians. Just working in and pulls out. They say stuff they know is not going to happen because they want the war to continue. They support the war. Whenever you see someone says what Matt Duss said during the opener, that's a tell sign that they are 100% okay with Democratic Party supporting Ukraine. And one of the reasons is because Matt Duss is a Western Ukrainian as well. So thank you for $4.99. Amir, can you talk about Moldova, Ukrainian potential attack on Russian Transnistria? I want to read into that. Drop me a link. Drop a link, and I can look into that. I always want to make sure I read and do some research on stories before I read about it and talk about it live. You know, I told you guys I don't. You guys don't have to believe what I say, so I'll make sure I'm well researched, show you guys receipts and all that stuff. So I'll have to look into that. I'm gonna get into this next story. Let me pull this up. I have this. There's this video. I don't think we're gonna do this today. I may say this for Monday for Nick and CJ, where I told you guys Ali Veshi is the lead propagandist of MSNBC. The Ukraine war, as Medea Benjamin exposed, only 40% of Americans support it now. That dropped from like 65%. They lost 1/3 of their support in 1 year. That's not a good sign for the West. Not a good sign, despite all the propaganda spin. So now they're sending all the propaganda all-stars out. You have Ali Veshi, you have Joanne Reed, and they brought Malcolm Nance, the guy who volunteered to fight on the Ukrainian front lines. One of the best decisions you can make as a liberal. When Malcolm Nance decides to go to Ukraine to do photo ops, they're like, man, he just made his career. This dude he's gonna write books about this shit, and the liberal boutique left audience is gonna eat it up. So there's a great statement. I may save it for Monday on that. I was going to do all the ones we have in the title today. Thank you for the $20, Justin. Great show, Nick. Just one thought. I hope you can give Medea and Cole Pink a break about making a mistake on the. That's a good point. I'm not trying to cancel them. I tell you this all the time. Like at least when I criticize people, I think it would be clear when I'm trying to cancel motherfucker. I think that's just a criticism. Like I think they gave the boutique left, they gave the NATO left the ammunition they used. All the people that were smearing this rally in bad faith, they was using the bad decision that Cole Pink made against. They say, "Oh my God, Cole Pink pulled out his rally because it's so problematic." So no, we need to hold them accountable for making bad decisions. But I'm not saying cancel them, but they need to be held accountable. That's a giant miscalculation, a giant mistake. Because now you got these competing rallies where it's all about ego now instead of solidarity. And I can tell the foundation is based on an anti-Marxist perspective of getting workers to hate each other, drawing up unnecessary drama, doing number 4 on the CILS where you focus on irrelevant issues. That's literally number 4. Number 4 on the list, focus on irrelevant issues. And that's what so many people did. And there need to be a learning lesson. There need to be a reckoning for that. But with that said, you do make a good point because I'm not trying to cancel them. I'm not here with this platform trying to tell you who to cancel. My message is cancel politicians. That's the one those are the people I'm trying to get you to cancel. Some people say you guys just trying to knock out Marianne Williamson because you guys actually running as a Democrat. And I'm like, yeah. The fuck? Where's the bad part of that statement you said, sir? I'm a citizen journalist who's advocating for my community. I'm a third-party activist. I believe that we need break of the third party. So yes, I'm trying to get you guys not to support Marianne Williamson. I'm trying to get you guys not to support the Democratic Party. I'm not trying to get activists canceled. That's not my thing. The people who are kind of shady. That's what I think. Thank you for $5. Nick, hoping you would do a full spectrum dominance show to connect dots. How U.S. empire's never-ending need for hogging resources results in wars. You guys, check out my conversation with Mark Kimberly, who we had on the show multiple times. We had a few conversations about full spectrum dominance. I also had it with Danny Haiphong before as well. But it's always a good topic. And with that said, I need to have Mark Kimberly and Danny Haiphong back on because they are people who talk about this a lot, and they are pretty solid on the issue. And I tell you guys, I'm mostly focused on talking to people who cover imperialism and people like Black Agenda Report and what Danny does, what people like the Gray Zone does, the people who really hammer that shit. Black Agenda Report, I give props to. Thanks for $5, Justin. Totally agree to hold Cold Pink accountable. I hope they turn themselves around and work on the mass movement to oppose the war. This nonsense where people believe that you can't organize with this person, but we can organize with liberals. The shit disgusts me. Yes, and they don't even realize that it's Democratic Party propaganda, because you guys are saying the liberals who support giant police states, who support these prison industrial complexes that destroy Black lives, they support all this horrific shit. They're Zionists. They're anti-homeless. TYT is openly anti-homeless. These people are disgusting people, but they give them a pass. It's okay to organize with liberals, but you guys don't want me organized with libertarians and right-wingers. People who, I live in a red state, these fucking blue state chumps who, surrounded by liberals, believe that is a workable model for people who live in red states. It's literally ridiculous. And I've seen this stupid behavior so much in my short time organizing the last 3 years, ever since I've been on the Bernie campaign, at least, that I am beyond tired of it. Unless you can prove me wrong on what I am saying, which none of these cowards want to do. They all know who I am. None of them want to have a conversation. So unless you want to do that, I'm going to continue to tell you why you're wrong. You're wrong unless you invite me on and explain me why I'm wrong. Tell me why it's okay to vote for an Amy Klobuchar cop-loving piece of shit Zionist liberal, but you don't want us to organize with libertarians. I view them as the same. I am consistent. You are not, right? So I would love someone to explain to me why it's okay to vote for someone who supports the police state versus a libertarian. They all have shitty beliefs. Do we agree on one issue or not? And I will work with you on that issue. Because I don't believe in a lot of these fucking Americans. I'm taking what I can get in my pursuit to educate and continue to advocate for socialism and Marxism. I'm gonna take what we can get as a working class movement. All you motherfuckers are shady to me. And then these white leftists like, oh, I'm the good white guy. Don't organize with the bad white guys. I'm your white savior. Fuck you. Who the fuck do you think you are? To tell me you the good white guy, apparently. Okay, bro. What's your stance on Ukraine? What's your stance on reparations? Right? Prove to me that you are the guy that we should ally with. Fuck out of here. And that's why they get mad when we do these videos exposing the NATO left. Because we expose the NATO left, we expose their bullshit fraudulent heroes, and then we say, this is why I'm not even comfortable with you. And then you want to say that you're the guy. You're the guy that we should be comfortable organizing with. Fuck you. I'm beyond done with this. And honestly, being banned from Twitter for a week was great for me because it gave me a chance to step away. And once you step away and you start talking to real people, I'm gonna go to Seattle, talk to Working Strike Back. I'll be always hanging around, organizing KC tennis. When you step away from the online leftist bullshit, you really realize how stupid it is. You really see the nonsense that it really is. So that's my mindset. That's my attitude now regarding these people. Debate me or shut the fuck up. Last story. I'll make this quick because I only planned an hour, so I already went a little bit long. So I want to make sure I'm doing it the right way. Damn, I should have pulled. Oh well, I'll make this shorter. My stories are already too long as it is. So I think I saw all the super chats. Yeah, I think I got them all. I'm alone today, so be a little patient. All right, let's knock this last story out, and then we're gonna have a good weekend, right? Next, I'm so hyped for next week. Going worker strike back. They had giant wins recently in Seattle, so I'm gonna talk to them. I'm hoping to do at least one stream in Seattle. We see, but I'm more focused on real life organizing now. I'm like all these online leftists, the people who are obsessed with Jimmy Dore, all these bullshit artists I see on Twitter, and one thing that being banned for a week really made me see it. I really saw it. I was like, man, being away from this nonsense was really good for me. So that's why I'm not even trying. Like, I'm done with these people. Period. But anyway, let's go through this next story. You had China that was proposing a peace deal in Ukraine and showing that Matt Duss lied. Zelensky and the United States have no interest in that. No interest in that whatsoever. Look at this headline. Showing that Zelensky, being the puppet of the West that he is, he wants to engage in all-out war and sacrifice his own people because he knows the West is going to take care of him in the end. He's going to have a mansion somewhere in Florida, like that Bolsonaro, right? Just like Bolsonaro and all these failed leaders, they're going to find a place in the West to live as their country collapses. Ukraine as a state is done, guys. This is what people need to realize. It's done. And that's because of the decisions of Zelensky. Partnering with the radical fascist Azov battalion and their thugs. Siding with NATO in the West instead of working with their neighbor and promoting peace. Look at this. Zelensky delivers blow to China's Russia-Ukraine peace plan. So you had China that was like, let's find a way to end this war. Zelensky, the United States and the West said, hell no. You see how much money we making out of this? We making bank. Bro, Raytheon making bank, and they donate to me. You know how much money? I ain't about to end this shit. You got Ukrainian government officials buying real estate up. Western media, no questions about it. So there's Zelensky saying, I'm not about that peace. And now the narrative that was spun by the Western allies, as you saw with the Democracy Now! Report, is that China is going to provide lethal support for Russia and Ukraine. And when Anthony Blinken was asked about this on Meet the Press, he wouldn't clarify what that was. Chuck Todd, and this is a video that we released a few days ago, check it out. Chuck Todd accidentally destroyed Anthony Blinken because he was asking basic questions like, what is your evidence that China wants to provide lethal support for Russia and Ukraine? And he couldn't provide it. Now, we all know now that was just a psyop in response to this story of China being a leader on this issue and said, we want to promote peace the same way that you had Naftali Bennett in Israel that wanted peace. You have the Global South in Africa that want peace. You have Lula, the leader of the largest country of Latin America, South America. Brazil has the population of every other South American country combined, if I'm correct on that. Literally one of the biggest, most influential countries in the world. They want peace. China want peace. Everyone want peace except Ukraine and the United States. And trust me, Europe does want peace, but the United States is like, hey, Boris Johnson, in Germany, Finland, Sweden, if you motherfuckers say anything, you're done. You guys know how the West threatens people. So that's the reality of what happened. See, now this is the other headline. Western leaders give cool response. What the fuck that mean? Hear the headline. Western leaders give cool response to China's plan for Ukraine peace talks. That's a nice way of saying Western leaders reject peace. You see, give cool response. What the fuck that mean? That's still trying to confuse people, even when telling the truth. Western leaders give cool response. A cool response would be like, yeah, let's end the war. No, the headline should be Western leaders reject peace in Ukraine once again. Matt Duss and NATO left caught lying once again when they say Biden wants peace. Well, that's the RBN headline, right? But that's what the reality of the situation is. Now, I'll click this article. This is another one. Come on, load. Let's go. U.S. joins EU in rejecting Beijing's peace proposal. Sanctions more Chinese firms. This is the nation that Matt Duss, Bernie, and the NATO left praises. Oh, Biden definitely want peace. He want peace so bad that Beijing proposed a peace deal. He's like, I'm gonna sanction you for even mentioning this shit. So EU rejected it. The United States rejected the peace proposal. I read the subheadline. You had Jake Sullivan, the UN National Security Advisor, says plan should have ended at first point, respecting the sovereignty of all countries. Jesus Christ. So China said, hey, how about we respect the sovereignty of all countries? And the United States said, we're out. Nope, you're asking too much of us. Beyond pair, they're just saying it. They're just saying it out and open. Unbelievable. China's like, how about you guys respect the fact that Taiwan is part of China? You guys have recognized that since 1970. Even NATO recognized the fact that Taiwan and China. They said respect the sovereignty of another country. Hell nah. That's the United States, guys. As I said earlier, China, Russia has shown amazing restraint in the face of this nonsense. Anthony Blinken says, well, he tells the UN Security Council not to be fooled by calls for temporary or unconditional ceasefire. So Anthony Blinken in the United States position is, hey guys, don't be fooled by peace. Don't be stupid enough to believe diplomacy will end this war. That's not what's gonna happen. We need bombs for peace. We're gonna bomb for peace. Ignorance is strength. Slavery is freedom. That's the United States. I think I got one more. This is Joe Biden's official response. I'll play this last video to wrap this segment up. This is Biden being asked about the Chinese peace talks. And listen to this war criminal. This is the guy that Matt Duss praised for his handling of the Ukraine, and the guy that the NATO left claim want peace in Ukraine.
Chinese peace plan floated overnight that Putin is now applauding today.
I think you answered the question. Putin's applauding it. So how could it be any good? I'm not being facetious. I'm being deadly earnest. I've seen nothing in the plan that would indicate that there is something that would be beneficial to anyone other than Russia if the Chinese plan were followed. And so the idea that China is going to be negotiating the outcome of a war that's a totally unjust war for Ukraine is just not right.
Chinese.
That's literally what you guys are doing. You said China should not dictate this war, but that is quite literally what the United States is doing. And Ukraine is not a NATO Western state. This is a regional conflict that you guys got in for reasons of expansion and geopolitical dominance. So China is not even doing what you guys are doing. China said, how about you guys end the fighting because it's hurting our business. Africans are starving over here. It's hurting our business. So we end the war, and then Biden says, oh my God, China trying to meddle in this conflict. Ridiculous. Painfully ridiculous. And note in the beginning, he says, oh, we can't follow this peace plan because it will give everything that Vladimir Putin wants. You're not pro-peace if your peace it hinges on your side winning. And that's what a lot of the NATO left thinks. The NATO left, like Nina Turner says, I am for peace only if it leads to a certain outcome. That is not what being a peace activist is. A peace activist wants peace. A peace activist wants peace. A peace activist does not say, I want peace in this region only if there's a certain geopolitical outcome. And that is what you get from the NATO and Bernie Sanders left. They would say stuff, and Nina gave a speech on her channel where she was like, I believe in peace, but she support arming Ukraine. So peace on certain conditions. This is a conflict that was started by the West, provoked by the West. So how dare we come in here and tell Russia what they can do on a regional conflict that threatens their borders? That's why they did not want to agree to respecting people's sovereignty, because that goes against the United States foreign policy, right? But anyway, there was a fun 90-minute episode. Hopefully I can do a stream Saturday from Seattle. That'd be lit, right? I do not have the technology. I wish I can cover the rally live. I guess I can't really because I'm supposed to be speaking. I'm gonna try to get someone to record my speech. That'll be fire. The last speech I have on my channel was the March for Medicare for All rally. If you guys haven't seen it, I don't think enough of you guys seen my speech because that was back when it was a smaller channel. But I miss giving speeches. I gave speeches a lot back in my time working on the Bernie campaign. So that's next Saturday. I'm flying out there doing that event. Hopefully I can find a way to do some sort of coverage. That's why supporting us on Patreon via Venmo. I had a link to Venmo, Revolutionary Blackout. Those are great ways to support us. Like I may go down there and see if I can find something I can do to record it. Hopefully I can get an interview there, but I got nothing but my phone here. My computer barely works, so I can't really do that. So any support, help us do stuff like that. I much appreciate you guys. I see CJ. Maybe he might be adding a video here. But anyway, that was going on next Saturday. JB show is tomorrow. What's popping, CJ?
Just wanted to say great stream and let everybody know I will be going live at 3 p.m. Eastern. So about another 30, 40 minutes. Nice. Hop back on. We'll talk about Bernie Sanders entering the race if Biden doesn't run.
I thought it was announced. Like, what?
There's a political article out that I'm going to cover saying that Biden may not be running. And if he doesn't, Bernie says he's for sure running. What does that do to Marianne Williamson?
Yeah, that's a big giant question here. That's very interesting. I saw that article. I saw that article as well, CJ. I didn't have time to cover it, obviously. So I'll definitely be watching. I had to do stream earlier today because I had plans in the afternoon. So that's why I knocked one out early. Make sure you guys tune in for CJ stream.
Yeah, just come back in about 30, 40 minutes. We'll be talking about that along with some other stuff. So just popping in to say that. All right, Nick, I'm going to pop back out and let you end the show.
All right, guys. I have no ending video for you. I'm going to put this banner up. Make sure you guys support our Patreon if you guys enjoy the show. Like, share, and subscribe. If you're new, subscribe for new content. We upload not only every day, but sometimes 2 times a day. We go live sometimes 2 times a day. Thursday is like Nick and CJ show, then JB and Sabby show. So we got a lot of content for you guys because there's no such thing as a slow news day. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, there's always something to talk about to me, right? So we always got a lot of stuff, good stuff for you guys. So please support the channel. Much love and solidarity for everyone who support us. Hopefully you guys enjoy the show. Have a good one, guys.